Visitors and viewers, please welcome the host of My Guest at This Time, Jose Gonzalez.
Hey everybody, welcome back to My Guest at This Time. Jose Gonzalez here. It is TNA Slammiversary week, which is crazy to think that so much of this wrestling year is already flown by, that we're already towards the end of July. We're getting to some heavy summer premium event season. So what better way to kick off the 20th Slammiversary event than to rekindle some magic with one of my dear friends who actually took me to my first TNA event all the way back in 2022. You know her, you love her, you've seen her everywhere. So you better not be sick of her, because if you are, I'm going to punch you. It's Ella J.
What's up, Jose? I'm happy to be here, ready for TNA's biggest event of the summer, actually biggest event of the year, I would argue.
I don't know. I always say Bound for Glory is like their WrestleMania, even though Slammiversary kind of has the ring to it. I mean, it's a monumental event to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, we got 22 years of TNA. It's the first one rebranded as TNA again. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on with TNA, and especially NXT WWE stuff going on. So it feels like there's going to be even more eyes on this Slammiversary than there has been in years past. I mean, they're already at a capacity crowd of 4,000 coming this Saturday, which I'm super excited about. What are you thinking as far as just like overall like hype level for Slammiversary?
Hype level, I feel like, is at an all-time high for TNA. Again, it's one of their, I would say, biggest two events of the year, like you said. Also, you know, the crossover with WWE has kind of been yielded some surprises, so we might get some surprise. Well, actually, Slammiversary always has surprises, so you don't know what's in store. Maybe we can get some NXT names. Maybe we'll get some TNA originals or alumni. You never know who could pop up, because they always have surprises at Slammiversary.
Yeah, I mean, we will dig into some surprises or speculations that we might have a little bit later on. So what do you say we get ready to fly into some of these Slammiversary predictions? Fair warning, this is being taped before this week's episode of Impact. If there's any matches announced that are added after this episode goes up, it is just, we're going to speculate. We have ideas of things. We don't know for certain until it airs on Access. So don't shoot the messenger, folks. But yeah, no, we have, at least for what's been announced, a fun card. I mean, let's get things going. We have the Knockouts World Tag Team Championship, a rematch. We have Spitfire finally getting their rematch against the Militia, Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards of the System. I'm very excited to see this reinvigorated version of Spitfire. We've seen them kind of rebuilding over the last few months, really just trying to get focus again. Obviously, you got Danny Luna. You have just the sheer excitement that comes along with her and Jody Threat. Ella, what are you thinking?
I feel like throughout the last, especially 6 months, the Knockouts tag team title reigns have been very, very, very short. Actually, over the last year, they've been really short. So I think I don't think this is the time to take the titles off of Masha and Alicia unless Killer Kelly is going to be returning here and something sparks there, because she's been filming a movie for the last couple of weeks, so she's been gone. But with that in mind, like I said, I don't think it would be TNA's best move to put the titles back on Spitfire right now, because like I said, the last couple of tag title reigns have been very short. They've been going back and forth. If you want to continue to elevate them, give somebody like Masha, who's, you know, hard hitting, and Alicia, who's a veteran as well, give them more time to elevate the titles, and maybe another team down the line, or maybe we get a reunion down the line. I don't think now is the time to take the tag titles off of them, considering they just won them at the beginning of May. And before that, like Masha and Killer Kelly, I think held them for like 2 or 3 weeks at most. And Spitfire also didn't have them for long before then. So keep the titles on them for now. But I do want Spitfire eventually to be tag champs again, just not right now.
You know, I actually disagree, because I have a bolder prediction that we're going to get into, obviously, because something has not been announced yet. I don't even know if it's going to be announced, but something tells me that this Slammiversary, we're going to see the System lose all of their gold. So, I mean, you think about it. You have Moose, who's the world champion. You have the World Tag Team Champions on the men's side, which is going to be Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. I feel like we're going to see the system slowly get systematically destroyed. So I think we are going to get new tag team champions, the 2-time champions in Spitfire, but I feel like we're going to have a lot more teams on the horizon because now that we've opened Pandora's box of the NXT relationship, I mean, yes, we still have people like the Hacks, we still have Decay. I can see a few heel stables making their way from NXT over to Impact to challenge for some gold. I mean, the two that I'm immediately thinking of right now, JC Jane and Jasmine Nix for sure, but also Metaphors, Jakara Jackson, and Lash Legend. I feel like they've been kind of like the unsung like NXT Women's Tag Champion since the titles were retired and unified by someone we will not name. Not the button I meant to hit, but she deserves it. Point being, it's just I feel like there's probably more to do with face champions down the line than there is with heel champions. Yeah, it's not really a long reign, but if you think about the fact that Masha was never really fully included into the system, it was just convenience for Lish to finally get a belt and for all of them to have a belt. I feel like if anything, yeah, we do have like, what if Killer Kelly shows up? Maybe Masha goes into business for herself because she's over this like weird relationship she doesn't really have with Alicia, and she wants to go back to being a killer in the singles division. I feel like we're going to see a new Spitfire. So
I can agree with the actually, spoiler alert, I can agree with the rest of the system losing their titles. I just think I feel like it devalues it a little bit by the repeated short reigns. It doesn't rub me the right way, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword because, yeah, it's another short reign, but at the same time, we really haven't had a chance to have established tag teams in the Knockouts division for a while now. It's kind of felt that way since 2022, really. Like, once like the ball started trickling with Inspiration leaving, and then you had the Influence leaving, and then like all these different tandems just kind of either getting repackaged or split. It's just, I feel like we kind of need like good babyface champions to really open up for the potential of other stables, especially because now that you have Marty and Allison Kay in TNA in some way, shape, or form, or even bring in some more independent tag teams too. Who's to say that we have to have people that are contracted as well? So who knows? But yeah, nice to know that like for once we are actually not agreeing on everything. It's nice to have a little bit of discourse, which for us is saying something because normally when we predict things, it's kind of almost exactly the same. I remember it. Were our predictions the same for that one Bound for Glory that Kimmy went 1-7 or what?
No, I think we were mostly in agreement, but we had one difference.
Yeah, well, Kimmy, we love you. Kimmy's so cool. Kimmy's so cool. See her at Destination WrestleCon. That's my cheap plug for now. But I mean, speaking of things that are cheap, we have the opponent of our dear friend Muscleman Malcolm, quote unquote flop Dalla, AJ Francis, defending not one but two championships, his newly reestablished and reminted Canadian International Heavyweight Championship, as well as a TNA Digital Media Championship against Montreal's own PCO. Ella, your thoughts going into this double title match?
Going into this, I was like, AJ Francis again hasn't been champ for too long, but then I looked at the location of this pay-per-view, and PCO, it's home turf, and so especially I think if they're gonna revive this title that has not been in play since what, the 80s or something like that, I think it's time for PCO to get a bit of gold around his waist in his home province, in his hometown. He's going to be a double champion, the digital media champion and the Canadian International Heavyweight Champion. You want to appease the people, especially in your hometown. If it was anywhere else, I would say AJ Francis, keep the story going, but they're in Montreal, so I'm going with PCO.
And especially because I feel like the other homecoming isn't going to end as successfully too. I feel like it's a combo of not only is it a homecoming for PCO, this historic venue in Montreal, the fact that it's a capacity crowd for TNA like we haven't seen in a decade in North America, the hubris of AJ Francis, and then on top of that, I feel like Steph DeLander is going to come back and get her lick back on AJ and Rich Blonde. And, finish off the love story that has been brewing for some time now. I'm going to say and new PCO. I mean, it kind of writes itself. I feel like we've been so close to seeing PCO win like a big one. Like, yeah, he's won like things where like maybe his career's on the line, but he's long overdue for a championship reign. I know we kind of talk about, I mean, short championship reigns with the Knockouts World Tag titles, but I mean, the Digital Media Championship has not really been known to have a very long title reign either. So I think just goes to show either there's urgency with challengers or it's kind of just a vehicle to maybe set up things later on down the line. You never know.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, we mentioned one homecoming. It only makes sense to mention the other homecoming that we have. We have Speedball Mike Bailey back in Montreal. He has Trent Seven in his corner going against Mustafa Ali for the TNA X Division Championship. I am excited for this one. I feel like this is probably going to be match of the night.
Oh,
it damn well should be match of the night. As much as I love Speedball, I love Speedball. Speedball deserves the world. I don't think Ali's dropping the title.
I don't think so either. I don't think we'll get unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be getting a double homecoming celebration. I think the story there for Ali is the campaign story is far from finished. Again, he's not technically signed though, so it is possible that he's like on a short-term deal that could be renewed. But I think the story with Ali and his campaign is far from done. And also, this is not the first time that they are squaring off. They squared off at Prestige earlier this year. And I believe, because I wrote a story about this, Mustafa called him, I think, the crazy, toughest son of a bitch he's ever wrestled. So, like, I think this can be an absolute banger of a match. I just don't think it's not time for the campaign of Mustafa Ali to end. He's been super entertaining. I don't think it'll be a clean finish at whatsoever because Mustafa is no stranger to some underhanded tactics in wrestling and in his campaign. Or does maybe Trent Seven turn? I don't know. I don't know how the ending's gonna go, but I also have Ali retaining here.
I mean, I definitely see Ali retaining. I don't know how much longer he will be in TNA, but knowing some of the things that have played out across other television shows this past week, it does reopen a possibility for maybe a WrestleMania rematch down the line. I'm thinking, regardless of whatever happens, I feel like we might see newly drafted back to NXT Cedric Alexander perhaps make the trip over to Montreal and have a nice face-off with Mustafa Ali. Give the people what they want, something that we got to see back at Mania 34. I would love to see them run it back, especially now because Cedric really hasn't had a chance to show anything as of late, especially with him just now getting back on TV in NXT. What better way to light him back up, even if he doesn't win the X Division title, but to have him go with an opponent we know he can make magic with this metamorphic, different Mustafa Ali than even we got to see in WWE because he unfortunately was released right when things were really starting to heat up. But that would be such a perfect roadblock on the campaign for Ali 2024. Like, can you overcome a skeleton from your past in this kind of way where you've tried so hard to really grow and have this metamorphosis as a performer? Is it going to stunt you or is it going to be something that you're able to defeat in the end?
Do you have Cedric returning here or at tapings after?
That's what I'm not sure. I feel like if you want to, add the speculation of the day after tapings, I would say have him return or appear on Impact. But I feel like the immediate pop they might get if they do it on pay-per-view, that might be a little bit more oomph.
See, I think we're going to be getting at least one, and I think we're going to be getting at least one NXT return or debut, depending on who it is, at Slammiversary. I don't think it's during this match, though. I think it's during the Knockouts or after the Knockouts Championship match.
I mean, is it crazy to think that, like, for almost the whole card, I could think of someone from NXT or from WWE coming and taking a shot, especially like if this is going to be like a nice tandem relationship. You got to start bringing over some of the heavier hitters. I mean, we've gotten to see like maybe a couple people go over to TNA from NXT. I mean, we've seen No Quarter Catch Crew go over there. We've seen Izzy Dame. We've seen Tatum Paxley. I would like to see hopefully some of the bigger names that not only that brand, but just WWE as a whole has to offer that could really not only elevate TNA, but also highlight the superstars that they are as well. I mean, we kind of been dancing around this title match. Let's just get into it. For the Knockouts World Championship, Ash by Elegance. Is that Dana? Another TNA wrestler, Ash by Elegance. Smooth, Vic. Challenging the Juggernaut. You've seen her every damn where. You've seen her in the Royal Rumble. You've seen her at NXT Battleground. You've seen her at Sunday Girls. I mean, Jordan Grace truly world traveled more this year than ever before in her career, just eating up any opportunity she gets. I want to say I'm excited for this just because I want to see if we could really get like Ash showing like, no, like if I was actually given a chance to wrestle, I can put on a great match. I feel like Jordan can bring it out of her. But I could also see them going the storytelling route of just Ash being this prima donna that doesn't want to do more than like a couple minutes here and there, if that, and just gets the shit beat out of her. What say you, Ella J?
Well, Ash has been on vacation for 3 weeks because she was not at tapings because she was in Australia during those tapings where she won a championship in Australia. So, you know, she was carrying gold throughout this time. However, she was not, they had vignettes and stuff of her, but she was not actively on TNA the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think not a complete squash, but I do think Jordan should absolutely dominate Ash by Elegance here. And obviously, Ash can blame it on, oh, she wasn't prepared. She was on vacation. You can think of storyline ways as to why Jordan Grace would squash Ash by Elegance, you know, or it have it just be like a spear out of nowhere. I think that story would have it continue on, and Ash can be like, I wasn't prepared. I was on vacation. I wasn't even here, blah, blah, blah. And then at that point, Jordan's like, that was so easy. And then she has another open challenge, and then an NXT or maybe a main roster person like an Natalia comes out. They are in Canada. So maybe it could be somebody like a Natalia, or for some reason I'm envisioning like a Fallon Henley kind of. Jordan's from Texas. Fallon has a little bit of a country gimmick going. I feel like Fallon would be a perfect opponent for Jordan, especially going in as a heel. If somebody were to show up, but it could also be Natalia too as well. I don't know, but I think if you're going to have an NXT return, I think this is the perfect way to do it. Have her squash Ash, and then she throws out another open challenge right after. We get either NXT or somebody like a Natalia while they're in Canada. Jordan retains again. Crowd gets a pop. You keep that crossover going.
Yeah, I feel like of all the people that have yet to go over to TNA that like we're screaming go to TNA, Natalia is probably the top candidate, ideally, because that's a dream match that everybody wants. Although I'd be lying if I said I didn't have other options, especially in the main roster, that could go over there and it would make total sense. I can literally think, not even actually, Candice wasn't on my list. I have 3 different people that could go back to emphasis on go back to TNA for something. I mean, you have 3 different Knockouts champions that are currently on the WWE roster on SmackDown. Some might also appear on NXT. You have a Chelsea Green, who brace card never declines, bedazzled to the gods. What a showing for her at Money in the Bank, by the way. I could see her. I could see Naomi, especially because at Slammiversary last year, she won the Knockouts World title from Deonna Purrazzo. Or someone that we've been seeing pull double duty for the last, 2 months, Michin, have her go back. She hasn't had any championship gold in TNA since 2016. And she had a tremendous match with Jordan Grace back at Emergence in 2022. I could totally see one of those 3, if not Natalia, definitely stepping up to Jordan, giving her a run for her money as well. But
now, does Naomi go over as Naomi or Trinity? Like, how does that work?
It'll probably be as Naomi, but selfishly, I wanted to be Trinity because that is the superior theme song. I'm sorry, WWE, Def Rebel, that Russell and Flow song for Trinity, is everything. And what we have now is just, it's there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we go from one less iconic song to a song that's charting worldwide. As we get into this main event, we have a 6-man elimination match for the TNA World Championship. We have the incumbent, the leader of the system, Moose, defending against former world champion Josh Alexander versus another former world champion, Steve Macklin, versus a former WWE world champion in Nick Nemeth, versus someone who has yet to win TNA World Championship gold, but has been pretty synonymous with TNA over the course of the last 2 decades, Frankie Kazarian, and probably, I would say, the odds-on favorite just with his meteoric rise to popularity. You would be a fool to discount Joe Hendry in a match like this. I mean, Ella, what are you thinking?
Well, I am discounting Joe Hendry in this match simply because there are reportedly significant plans for him going forward in NXT for the next couple of weeks. So I think he'll be obviously still in TNA, but I think his bigger focus is going to be NXT the next couple of weeks and months. So for that reason, I mean, you could have him pull double duty, but then it makes things even more complicated if he's the world heavyweight champion for TNA and also crossing over to NXT and stuff like that. I do think this is going to be the end of Moose's reign. Frankie Kazarian, I don't know if they would throw. Actually, would this be Frankie's first world title in TNA?
What?
Now that
he didn't do it with option
that's
C.
Crazy. That's right. That's crazy. So it could be Frankie, but somebody who I thought was going to get the title a lot sooner when he came in was Nick Nemeth.
Well, I am just shocked.
You know, he's already won the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. I thought he was going to win the TNA title first. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Obviously,
AAA Mega Champion as well.
Yeah. He's also since lost the IWGP title. He is still AAA. I mean, if you're going to work with WWE crossover, he's already worked with NXT and stuff like that. They've already had Ash Dana crossover. So why couldn't Nick Nemeth, I guess, in the future, or somebody come over to work with him, you know? He already has that relationship with WWE, so he's familiar with them. He's a trusted vet if they want to have a world champion on the men's side work with WWE. And so I just think it was a matter of time for Nick Nemeth to win. And this is the perfect opportunity for him to win. And Moose doesn't have to be pinned. Oh, it is a 6-way elimination
he does. It's
match.
an elimination
That's
match,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think Nick pinning Moose would be kind of perfect in here. So I'm going with Nick Nemeth. I think he should have won it sooner.
Well, here's my problem. I have 2 theories that disagree with you. One, Moose already beat Nick Nemeth at Rebellion. And on top of that, we already saw Jordan Grace challenge Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's title as the Knockouts World Champion. Mm-hmm. Who's to say that you don't fully cash in your chips? I mean, you got to ride the wave of Joe Hendry right now. I mean, he's getting crossover virality. We're talking on the music side of things. He's become a meme on social media. Him also making multiple appearances in NXT. I mean, what's good for the women is also good for the men. You could have your TNA World Champion challenge for the NXT title, especially with Ethan Page also being a former TNA star himself too. I feel like Joe Hendry's probably the ambassador to have right now. You got to strike the iron while it's hot. I mean, we've seen so many times in the past where you have a star that's getting built up so much and then they just don't pull the trigger and then it just nothing comes of it. And I don't want Joe Hendry to be like a case of what ifs, like we've seen with so many other people in TNA. I mean, kind of a good example because we were talking about the Knockouts. Roxy Laveau was one that was like a what if. I mean, you think about someone that was like a staple. When you think of the Knockouts, you think of someone like a Roxy was never the Knockouts champion. And I mean, we're talking about someone that's done so well, making a name for himself, whatever he's doing. I mean, we've seen the parodies that he's done at past promotions. We've literally seen him essentially have more or less the same presentation for the better part of multiple years, whether it was in the UK with What Culture Pro, whether it was in Ring of Honor, especially right after Tony Khan acquired Ring of Honor. Joe Hendry was on that Super Heart of Honor show, and then diddly dick happened out of that. He ended up going back to TNA. We're really starting to see so many people get behind him. He's already had the Digital Media Championship as well. I mean, I think now is the time to truly believe in Joe Hendry. And then whatever comes of this, it's going to be fun to see, whether it's Ethan Page coming and staring him down. I feel like we might see 1 or 2 people return during this. I could totally see a Matt Cardona coming out and screwing Nick Nemeth. I could totally see that happening, especially because he's starting to get a little bit physical again. We saw him active in the Australian tour. Obviously, his stuff in GCW as general manager. He's been very busy, even though he wasn't cleared to wrestle. So even if he's not fully cleared to wrestle now, he can still come out and screw Nick Nemeth, and that story writes itself because you're talking about almost 2 decades worth of history between those two right there. Steve Maclin, I feel like, is just ever since he dropped the title, he's just been struggling to get momentum. I'd hate to say that it's not his time right now. I'm honestly surprised that he ended up re-signing with TNA. I thought he would end up going over to like an AEW or even doing a tour in Japan or something. Frankie Kazarian, I feel like as much as I would love for him to have a world title reign, I feel like he's not done anything currently other than be like a hater or just like trying to get under Joe Hendry's skin more than anything.
I mean, it's
qualify?
not out of the realm of possibility. We saw it last year with Alex Shelley, who had never won the TNA World Title. You know, he had also been in and out for the last 2 decades, so it's possible. But I agree with you. Storyline wise, I mean, it could be a surprise. You know, TNA Slammiversary is kind of all about surprises. I wouldn't be mad if Frankie Kazarian. Actually, I wouldn't be mad with any potential new champion here. Yeah. But I think out of all of them, I think Frankie is the least likely, personally.
Honestly, I think Josh is the least likely. Because especially after the stuff he's done with Hammerstone, I don't feel like he's going to have a major title again for quite some time, honestly. And
that's fair.
I don't think he really needs it at the moment, especially because they extended his contract for the rest of the year. I feel like, if anything, having that world title, even if it's for a little bit, isn't really going to help him in regards to negotiating where he's going to go next, because he doesn't need the title to go somewhere else next. I feel like he's one that could definitely go to New Japan. He could go to an AEW. He can go to a WWE. Like, he has so many options available to him that I feel like having a title reign right now isn't going to make a difference with his future. So I'm going to say and new Joe Hendry. So a long-winded way to say it, but that is what I'm thinking. But of course, it wouldn't be us if we weren't speculating about who else could appear. I know we've kind of done it with different matches here and there. We got to see AJ Styles come out. Like, there's no way we don't see AJ Styles. I mean, even if he comes out to his WWE music instead of Get Ready to Fly. I mean, I feel like he's probably going to be the choice to go into the TNA Hall of Fame this year. So I feel like, because usually at Slammiversary, they do tend to announce who the inductee is. I remember, I think it was last year they had 2 inductees. So who's to say that we couldn't see maybe AJ go in for the men and then we see another knockout announced as well. But who else do you think might show up? Or actually, I know we were kind of talking about the system. Do you think we're going to get a world tag title match?
I feel like you should. Like you were. I think if you're going to have the system lose, I mean, I still have Alicia retaining, but I think if you're going to have Moose lose, I think you're also going to have the system lose, or the tag team title as the system. Edwards and Myers lose as well. So then that would go to the Hardys, I presume, you know.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So if there is going to be a tag team title match, I think it's going to be, or it should be, against the Hardy Boys. Which, and in that case, I would have the Hardy Boys win.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like, and especially with the Hardys, you could do a lot more of having them face off against the younger teams. I mean, the Hardys versus ABC would be a fun match to see. Too. So I feel like that's kind of a gimme that they would announce that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else as far as the titles go. It's really just the world tag titles that haven't been announced yet. I feel like we might see a 6-man tag match, especially because you have No Quarter Catch Crew appearing this week on Impact to go against 2 members of the Rascals Zach Wentz and Trey Miguel, but they have a different tag team partner. I think did they announce it was Kushida, or am I misremembering it? I don't know. But the point being is that it's not Wesley. I feel like Wesley will get announced if they're going to make a 6-man tag, because they just reunited on NXT. Yeah. They're going to have a tag match on NXT against Gallus. Yeah. That's going to be how you book the Rascals reunion on the TNA side of things as well. So that's certainly something. Do you have a prediction as to who could be, if they are going to do a men and women's inductee into the TNA Hall of Fame, who you have for this year?
The Hardy Boys are a good shout, honestly. They're active, though. AJ Styles is also a good one.
I mean, Gail was active when she was inducted.
That's true.
Sting was active when he was inducted.
Hardy Boys would be a good shout.
I feel like it would, but I mean, with this kind of relationship that WWE has with TNA, you really got to go for AJ.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of other potential options. I mean, Tara, Victoria.
Yeah, I feel like on the knockout side of things, it's probably going to be one of 3 people. I would say it's going to be Tara. It could possibly be Mickie James, Or if you want to stick to someone in Canada too, depending on if they do it, I could see them doing it for Taylor Wilde, especially because she's retired from competition again.
Are beautiful people inducted yet? I don't think they are.
You know, the beautiful people have not been
Angelina's from
inducted.
Canada, from what I recall.
Yeah,
I think
and
she's
they were on
Canadian.
Impact 1000 too, so I
Yeah.
could see the beautiful people going in this year as well. If you want to stick with like some of the OG class of the 2007 Knockouts division. So,
Yeah, Angelina's from Canada, so
yeah, from Toronto. So I could see them
Yeah.
do the beautiful people too. I wasn't even thinking tag teams, honestly.
mhm.
So, but yeah, that is a stacked Slammiversary card for what we know so far, as well as some fun banter. I mean, obviously, you guys can find it on pay-per-view, probably Fight TV, TNA Plus will have it as well. I'm excited to see how the show pans out. I know, unironically, I'm going to be at Ella's when it's airing, so it's going to be a matter of what screen we're going to have the show on, but I'm excited to watch it while we jam out to some Christmas stuff in July.
Oh
I
my
mean, this show feels like the biggest gift of the summer, so
God.
let's go with that. Ella J, any closing comments?
No, I'm really looking forward to see what surprises they have just in general. Like, obviously, I feel like we'll be getting some NXT crossover here. We should be. Otherwise, though, I feel like we have to get at least one or two surprises, like non-NXT surprises. So I hope that I want to be really surprised this year and have something that I'm like not expecting. You know, I don't know, like Dixie Carter returning or something. You know,
I mean, we've seen it before. So.
yeah. I'm
mean,
excited for the surprises.
Is it weird to say that I haven't felt like this? Like, I wonder what the surprises are going to be for a TNA show the same way I do for the Royal Rumble before. I feel like even like when we had the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, like I've never really thought about like, oh, I can't wait to see who shows up the way that I am right now, because wrestling is freaking weird right now. Everybody's working with everybody. Some people are just like immediately, like the second they get a phone call saying "F it, I quit," and then the next couple days you see them working house shows. So who's to say? I mean,
all I know is I'm waiting for Charlotte Flair to get cleared so I can get my dream match. Maybe
she's never gonna let up on the Hardcore Country versus Queen.
That's damn right. I'm not.
Yeah, don't worry. I can guarantee that at least one half of this match has already heard this ad nauseum over the last 3 years. So once it happens, LJ can finally go peacefully into that. No, yes. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yes, I can.
But I mean, Ella, you have a lot of stuff coming up. I mean, we're approaching 5 years of a wrestling gal?
Yeah, at the time of recording this, tomorrow is the 5-year anniversary. I'll be releasing, well, I don't know when this is going to come out, but I'm releasing 2 episodes this week of A Wrestling Gal. One is a special Ask Me Anything. Another is an interview with a longtime friend of mine who I've been friends with since long before she became a wrestler, Allie Albright. You may know her for her love of Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks. We go way back 9 years, so that was kind of a full circle thing. Got another interview releasing this week, too, with a certain Marigold talent, so that'll be fun to be released.
Ooh. I can't wait to see how this goes. And then, obviously, A Wrestling Gal isn't the only thing we have coming up. I mean, you and I are both headed to Cleveland for SummerSlam weekend.
You'll see me with new hair and everything.
I mean, I'm getting a haircut, too, so we'll see how much of this blonde is left afterward. But the crazy thing is, this is technically the first time you and I have gone on a wrestling trip where we're both going to be the media personnel, not just me helping you out or vice versa. So this is going to be an interesting trip. I'm excited to see some old friends, some new friends. Excited to see a lot of wrestling. I mean, Destination WrestleCon, our friends at High Spots. I'm excited to kind of see who they have on the lineup because they have a lot of good names, especially for it being a non-WrestleMania weekend convention. So if you guys are in Cleveland and you want something to do besides the WWE stuff going on, go to WrestleCon. Go see some.
We'll be favorites. There. Probably Saturday morning.
We'll be there. Yeah, more than likely Saturday morning. If you see us in Cleveland and you're like, hey, we know you, come say hi. Or if you see us and it's a convention going on in Buffalo and you're like, hey, I don't know you, let me say hi. It's all good. But yeah, keep it locked here, guys. I mean, LJ, it says it right there where they can find you, but where can they find you?
You can find me on twitter.com/it's LJ. All my links are in my my milkshake in my bio.
I forgot that Milkshake is like a link aggregator too, because she wanted the aesthetic. I mean, there's nothing more aesthetic than just having a domain. So joseandtheair.com has all my links. And if you put a shop in front of it, you get some of my merch too. You never know. There's mugs, stickers, shirts, whatever have you. I mean, come on, support the channel, guys. I have a guest already lined up for some more pay-per-view event coverage coming next month with AW All In. I'm excited for it. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for when I'm going to be streaming again. I know June was balls to the walls, and then this month we kind of reeled it back in just because life is crazy at the moment. But hey, we're still getting some new content out. I'm excited. A lot of things are happening, and I can't wait to share them all with you. So I will see y'all very soon. Take care, everybody.